Yes, hello, welcome back to the Woe Pony podcast. Grace Clark here with you for another 15 minutes or so if you're listening on the radio. And if you're listening to the podcast, welcome back to part 2, the DOS. I don't know what it is in German. Welcome back. Today we are doing Grooms... Sorry. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I could not get my words out then. Groomzilla stories. I've done bridezillas in the past. Today it's time to do some groomzillas, I think, to show that men can be just as bad as women. And I've got some stories here. Sorry, I'm just having an emergency. There's something in my eye. Help, Mum. Yes, so I've got some stories here, tales of groomzillas who have been just a bit too much, and I'm going to share a couple with you before we end the show today. So without further ado, let's go straight into it, shall we? This one is from a news article, and it's about, they interviewed this couple that me and this chair have a bit of a love-hate relationship. Sometimes I love that it supports me, and other times I feel like it just wants to shout on the radio all the time and it just wants to be heard. Anyway, this is from a news article. I think they interviewed this couple, and it was about them talking about the fact that he planned the whole wedding and became a bit of a groomzilla. So I don't know if this is their first name or last name, but it says when Shenton proposed in December 2016, which makes me want to just scream, Fenton!
Fenton! Fenton! Fenton! Fenton! Fenton! Fenton! Oh, Jesus Christ! Fenton!
That's a blast from the past, isn't it? When Shenton proposed in December 2016, I couldn't wait to start planning the wedding. We set the date for September 2019 to give us enough time to save for it, and I expected Shenton would sorry, I can't take the name seriously anymore, would let me do everything. But within a year, he took control of the purse strings and created different spreadsheets for everything. These groomzillas love a spreadsheet, don't they? They love a spreadsheet. I'd always wanted a flower wall, but he hated the idea. When I showed him an all-white bouncy castle, he said it was too tacky and wasn't allowed. He would have been correct. Bouncy castle. He became obsessed with making lists. Groomsmen had a list of everything to do, what to wear, and schedules for fittings. Shenton even specified a certain shade of nail varnish for the bridesmaids. Oh my goodness. If anyone was late or didn't follow the list, they got a stern warning that if they didn't up their game, they'd be out of the wedding party. He gave the DJ a list of 200 songs to play and decorated the venue himself. He approved the bridesmaids' haircuts a few days before the big day, as he didn't want them to turn up looking scruffy. Imagine you're getting married and you're the bride, and you're like, yeah, sorry, he's just on one, really. Yes, yeah, your hair looks fine, Sandra. He just wants to approve your haircut before the wedding, or else you can't come because you look scruffy. That is a bit much. For anyone that's watching the YouTube channel can see that I have something in my eye. Yeah, that was a bit much. I still couldn't take the name Shenton seriously. Just big red flags. It doesn't seem like a happy day anymore. It just seems like a bit of a stress. Next one. Stephen proposed in March 2015 after 2 years together, and we decided the wedding would be in August 2017. I always dreamed of my wedding, but I'll admit I'm not the most organised person, so Stephen decided to take the lead. At first I didn't think of anything of it, but when my mum rang and told me she was excited to have a wedding venue, I was shocked. I asked Stephen, and he admitted he'd booked the venue because he wanted to get it done. He used spreadsheets and a wedding planning app to keep control of costs and bookings. He designed the invitations himself, and when I heard him shouting over the phone one night, I couldn't believe it when he told me it was the printers on the other end of the line. He demanded a reprint as the floral colour palette was the wrong shade. Stephen even changed part of my wedding dress without asking me. He secretly contacted the designer and arranged for my favourite sayings to be sewn into the bottom of the dress. Luckily, when I tried it on and spotted it, I cried with happiness instead of anger, but it was a risky move. How many sayings can someone have, unless you're Marilyn Monroe, to put on the bottom of it? I can't imagine that they'd be very sort of poetic sayings as well. Better out than in. Sewn in on the bottom of her dress. No wonder she cried. Next one says, I had a really high-strung groom who yelled at one of his young guests, the kid was 12, for sitting out of his assigned seat and told the kid and his parents to leave. Later at night, the bride's father, who was single, made out with one of the bridesmaids and the groom punched him. We had to call an ambulance and the groom was arrested. Lot of violence, okay. Next one. I'm not a wedding planner, but I love this story. A girl I went to high school with got engaged. Her parents offered her 3 options. $50,000 for a wedding, $50,000 for the down payment on a house and a small intimate wedding, or $25,000 for the wedding and $25,000 for the house. She chose the $50,000 wedding. Let's just take those numbers in. $50,000 on a wedding? Okay. Weeks before her wedding, she told her parents that she was having second thoughts. Parents said, everyone has jitters. The wedding is paid for. You're getting married. She got married. The wedding lasted 2 months. She had been cheating on her now husband for over a year with a co-worker. Oh my gosh. And they spent so much money on the wedding. Oh God. $50,000. I think... No, I'd go for the house one and the small intimate wedding, I think, because still $25,000 is a lot for a wedding, isn't it? Let alone 50. I don't know why I'm saying this as if I know. I've got no clue. And the next one says, the worst I've personally witnessed: had a groom's baby mama, an ex-fiance, come to the reception uninvited. She grabbed the wedding cake, chucked it at the newlyweds and began screaming about how he was a deadbeat dad, while she grabbed table wine bottles that she smashed on the ground. Love that. Make a scene. Cause a scene. Next one. A groom from a wedding we just did is claiming the venue they used stole from them because he didn't receive wedding presents from all of his guests, and he's 100% certain every single one brought them something. They requested money, by the way, it says. So now he's wanting to sue the venue while also calling all of his guests to make sure they gave him money for his wedding gift. Okay, sounds a bit money grabby. Okay. Next one, short and sweet, says, we had one groom who was an hour late. His bride lay down on the floor, pulled the back of her dress over her head and started singing nursery rhymes to herself until he could be located. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say that was a childhood inner child response. Maybe that's something that she used to do when she was little to soothe herself. And she couldn't see any other way of calming down. Can you imagine that? Just laying on the floor and pulling your dress up again. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Oh, I do make myself laugh. Okay, one more and then let's go to one more song on the radio before we end my show. Last one says, the groom got mega plastered and smashed a bottle of cognac on the dance floor and literally tried to set it on fire. The function supervisor tried to tell him very politely that he couldn't, and he got all upset about it and started screaming, "This is my wedding, and if I want to burn this place down, I will." And on that note, thank you very much for joining me today. We've had a roller coaster of stories about Groomzillas. Please head over to our socials at Woe Pony Podcast, or indeed me at Gracie Megan Clark. Give us a follow, a like, or whatever you want to do. And thank you for listening today. I hope you've had a wonderful time. If you have any Groomzilla stories that you want to share, please get in contact with me and I will try and shove them into another episode. Have a lovely evening, rest of your lives, your days, and night, ma'am.